morning, good evening, and good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. And welcome to the Infinite Way, where spirituality meets humanity. And I'm really excited because today we have our guest, Dr. Hans Parge. And I'll tell you a little bit about his background. It's in biomedical research and pharmaceutical drug discovery. His basic training was in X-ray crystallography and structural biology. He did his PhD in Trinity College, Dublin, and postdoctoral work in Berlin at the Free University, the University of Edinburgh, and Scripps Research Institute in La Jolla. His work at the Scripps Institute involved the atomic structure analysis of proteins, the molecules of life. In 1993, he left Scripps and went to a startup that was pioneering X-ray crystallography to inform pharmaceutical drug discovery. In 2009, Dr. Hans took early retirement and moved into the world of wellness, prevention, and youthful aging. He now helps people die as late in life as possible. So welcome.
Thank you for the kind introduction, Enolia. Yeah, crystallography is a big thing to get your mouth around.
It can be sometimes, yes, yes. You bring such a plethora of wisdom and understanding to the table. And first and foremost, tell us a little bit about just your background in terms of moving through the pharmaceutical industry and what you brought to the table.
That's a long story. I see if you can keep it short, Enolia. Unlike many people who know early on in their life what they want to do, I sort of fell into one study after another. I wanted to do physics, and then I ended up doing a degree in physical chemistry at Trinity College Dublin. And then I just, in my last year, I did a project using X-ray crystallography to generate sort of diffraction pattern photos. But long story short, I sort of fell into small molecule crystallography, where I did a PhD in that. And then on one of my earlier postdocs in Edinburgh, my friend turned me on to the world of protein crystallography, doing the atomic structures of the large molecules. And that's when things really got exciting, because I was having a view into the biology of life. And I left Edinburgh and then had an EMBO fellowship to start that work in Berlin from 83 to 86, when the same person who I hold fully responsible for my career found an advertisement in Nature magazine for a position at the Scripps Research Institute. And I applied and I got it, and then we came in 86 to San Diego, California, and have been here ever since. I did some wonderful work at Scripps, which we were privileged to publish in Nature and Science. And then in 93, I interviewed for a position at Agaron Pharmaceuticals, which was the scientific founder of which was a guy who I really, really respect, who sort of pioneered the technology of structure-based drug design. There was a 1984 science paper that he published that then got some startup funding, and they became viable in 95 with the launch of the fourth antiviral against HIV/AIDS. Okay. And, I was wearing my Agaron t-shirt once in a local Ralph store in Hillcrest, which is a very heavily gay community. And a person came up to me with tears in his eyes, thanking me for saving his life because he was on Virusmap. I had nothing to do with that project. That I was already in the clinic by the time I got there. But it highlighted for me that, here I am studying an esoteric science that nobody really knows about, from a little backwater village in County Meath in Ireland, having the privilege to potentially impact people's lives.
Yeah.
And I thought that was quite motivating, so yeah. And by 2000, we were part of the Pfizer fold, and the La Jolla site, the Legacy Agron site, became and is still the global oncology site for all research, cancer research in Pfizer. And in 2009, I was gently released into the world of unemployment because of a failure in clinical trials of the successor to Lipitor.
Okay.
And that was like a huge kind of earthquake, because many sites closed down. Many people, were released gently. Others had to find something else. I sort of took it as an opportunity to see if there's anything else I wanted to do.
Which is beautiful. And that brings us to exactly some of the work that you founded, which has been absolutely fascinating. Would you mind educating our listeners a little bit on carotenoids?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that
yeah. So say carrot and enoid. So carotenoids,
carotenoids.
So if I go back to 2009, there was also an MD PhD friend who was very, very instrumental in me opening up my eyes to a whole world that I had completely was unaware of. That's the world of wellness.
Okay.
Holistic world, but also from a business perspective, the world of direct sales, which in many quarters has a very bad name. but when most businesses, when they're done with integrity and right, they have an impact.
Right.
So I first started with a company that she had joined, which was endorsed by Deepak Chopra. It was using Ayurvedic principles to formulate their products. And I just love that whole traditional medicine journey into Ayurveda, because I believe it's the oldest traditional medicine on the planet. It actually even predates Chinese traditional medicine.
Okay.
But from a business perspective, they had a very uphill struggle, because they were really creating a market. I mean, even though we live on the crazy wild west in California, it was still probably 50 years ahead of its time. It's probably getting more and more traction now, with all the work of Chopra and people in the Ayurvedic space. But at that stage, it was still a challenge. And then a dear friend of mine turned me on to the second generation device that measures carotenoids.
Okay.
And that I was hooked. I mean, and just to put it into perspective, if you can't measure things, you can't manage them. And as a scientist, there's a joke: scientists, we trust God, but everyone else bring us data. So the epiphany and I call it my carotenoid epiphany in 2011. When I measured myself on the device, I found my carotenoid levels really very low. Okay. And it's not like you're going to die tomorrow with low carotenoids, but they have health consequences, long term, especially in the eye and the brain, and even cardiovascular health. So knowing what your levels are, I think, has then become my passion. People always assume that they understand what I'm doing, and they call me a sort of a vitamin salesperson, which is perfectly fine. I don't take it as an insult. I can certainly turn them on to, clinically validated pharmaceutical grade nutritional supplements that will impact their health, like it impacted mine. But really what I see as my primary mission is to get people to care enough to measure their health.
Yes. And when we first had this conversation, I was fascinated by how carotenoids were measured and how we actually intake them into our body through what particular foods. Because you don't think about these things and why it's important. So I'm going to ask you to break the carotenoids down to our listening audience so that they understand and can grasp why it needs to
So,
be measured and why it's important for these antioxidants to be present.
so, I don't claim to be the expert. I've just picked up a lot in the last 17 years, and I reference experts, and I also reference their publications. So it is
Okay.
there in the literature, okay, that people can go and look at. Professor Nolan, who is the Howard Chair of Nutrition at the Nutrition Research Centre Ireland, has contributed a lot to the understanding of the role of carotenoids in eye health.
Okay.
Actually, that was I think his PhD was carotenoids and age-related macular degeneration.
Hmm.
So they are plant pigments, or there are pigments that give nature its color. There are 700 of them in nature.
Yes.
There are 50 in our food supply, and 18 make it into our blood. Now, plants are green because the chlorophyll masks the color, the brilliant reds, the oranges color of the carotenoids. But when you marvel at the fall colors in Maine or wherever on the East Coast, it's because the chlorophyll has died, and now you're seeing the beautiful, vibrant colors of carotenoids.
Okay.
The interesting thing is that of the 18 that make it into our blood, 3 of them, the eye carotenoids or the eye pigments, concentrate 1,000-fold in the back of the eye, in the
Mm,
macula, where they
okay.
protect the seeing part of the eye from the blue light radiation damage.
Okay.
Yeah. And I always found, this is also what I learned from Nolan, I find it very interesting, fascinating, and it's a little bit of a cocktail story, but think of it. Most people know what colostrum is. Yeah, but all mothers know what colostrum is because that's the
Yes.
first 3 days of their breast
The
milk
breast
that
milk.
they gave their child. Well, it's
Yeah.
called liquid gold. And it's called liquid gold because the color are carotenoids.
Ah, okay.
So here's an interesting thought process. If nature sees fit as the very first thing, along with all the other good things that it gives to the child when it's born, is a good dose of this color, you think they might be important.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And they're important, from the cradle to the dance floor. I mean, the role, their frontline antioxidant functionality definitely protects the developing brain and eyes from excess free radical damage as the child is developing. But there are also other important roles that they play in signaling
Uh-huh.
gene expression. There's a paper that was referenced by Lester Packer, who basically is like the father of the antioxidant theory,
Uh-huh.
who will say that your exogenous, those antioxidants that you eat in, because we don't make them, carotenoids, they're of purely dietary origin. If the mother doesn't eat them, the child won't get them. If we don't
Okay.
eat them, we don't get them. But the health of the exogenous antioxidant network directly speaks to the health of the endogenous, because, we make our own detoxifying or antioxidant enzymes like catalase, superoxide dismutase,
Hmm.
glutathione, all these sort of things we make ourselves, but we need the support from the exogenous. Like vitamin
Right,
C is an exogenous antioxidant.
right.
Uh, and we know how, most people don't don't really understand, but when they go make a salad or when they cut open an apple and they want to stop it from turning brown, they'll put lemon juice on it. So that's basically an application of antioxidants. Yeah.
Okay,
So the
okay.
question then is, how are you lemon juicing yourself? How are you
Mm,
lemon juicing the inside to stop the rusting stress of life, which is
okay.
going to be there. Actually, one thing Nolan said I thought was really funny. We should celebrate these free radicals because it means we're alive. Otherwise,
That's
we're
right.
dead. Yeah, but so we celebrate and then we manage them. Yeah. So
Yes. Yes. Well, I'm sitting here listening to you, and one of the things that I know that you bridge is you brought in the Healthy Neighborhood Project. But before we go to the Healthy Neighborhood Project, I want to know, each of us has a precipice in life that we reach that just makes us go, what am I doing and why wouldn't I pave a new pathway? What was it that made the appeal to you for wellness? Was it a moment?
that's an awesome question, Dr. Enolia. You know, I marvel at the people who are brave and say enough is enough. I'm heading out of here, and I'm going
Yeah.
to change. I'm going to change direction. Um, that was not me. I wasn't brave enough. I just was confronted with the reality that I didn't have a job, and was confronted with what else do I do now? Because there's a wonderful article in Fortune magazine or Forbes called 50 and Fire.
Uh-huh.
When you're in your 50s, and this was published way back in 2006, you have a challenge to get back into the workforce.
Yes.
I've been very privileged. I'd done, research. You can't really say it's going 9 to 5. From 83 or 81 to 93, it was basically self-motivated research, but not really a boss having me punch my clock. And with
Right.
Agaron and Pfizer, it was the same. Yeah. But the 16 years from 93 to 2009, I would describe as a real job. So
Okay.
at 53, I'd been there, done that.
Mm-hmm.
And if your position is eliminated in a sector, that should be the writing on the wall. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
there was one person who joked, when you see the writing on the wall, it's often a good idea to read it. So basically, I read the writing on the wall and looked for something else. And like the universe always provides, there's a wonderful saying, when one door closes, many more open.
Open.
Yeah. But we look so long and regretfully at the one that's closed that we miss all the ones that's open.
And I want to highlight what you just said because, I actually went through the same iterations with Corning Incorporated also as a project, program manager, et cetera, et cetera. And many people at our age, because that happened to me at 50 also,
Yeah.
um, don't have the wherewithal to make the transition. They lose so much in terms of their inspiration to be able to look for those new pathways and to allow themselves to, I always say, dream a beautiful dream or you will be dreamt. If
Yeah.
you don't hold a vision for yourself, then you end up living your whole life as what people project you to be. because they go, oh, I think you should do this. And you kind of give that a try and a look. And, oh, I think you should do that. And you give that a try and a look versus just holding that vision so that life can become a walk to that vision. And it's satisfying and it's inspiring and it leverages your strengths. So I say that to say that it's important for people to hear our stories so that they can see that there are pathways to be had and to be taken and to be
And,
looked at.
and Dr. Enolia, this is not, I in no way trivialize the stress that people go under when they lose their job. Now, for
Yeah,
me and for most people, our job is our identity.
yeah.
We are what we do. And if you've got 3 children, 2 dogs, and a mortgage to pay, there
Okay,
are
that's right.
there are practical considerations that can really feel very, very stressing when the income stops. So, in theory, yes, go pivot if you can, but if not, find yourself another job, but do yourself a favor next time round. If I had somebody introduce me in 1993 to what was introduced to in 2009 or even in 1984, I would have been much better off.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
because
Yeah,
even now, I come across a lot of young people in San Diego, which is not an inexpensive place to live. They've got multiple streams of income, but not only that, they're working multiple jobs, and that works. I don't say it doesn't work, but it's very stressful because you're really making a linear trade between time and money.
right.
And if you don't have a vehicle where you can leverage your time and exponentially grow your income, your leveraged income, then you're stuck on a hamster wheel.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, I tell people who lose their jobs, I congratulate them. Yeah, I say, it's fantastic. Welcome to my world. Now, before you start chasing for another job, go read what is it? Chris and Janet Atwood's book, The Passion Test.
Mm-hmm.
So at least the second time round, you have an idea of what's going to align with your passion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's a
Yeah.
wonderful phrase I like. It's sort of my guiding little principle from George Bernard Shaw. Have I shared this with you before? Maybe not.
Maybe not.
The phrase goes like this. This is the true joy in life. The being used for a purpose recognized by yourself as a mighty one. The being
Mm,
a force of nature instead of a feverish, selfish little cloud of ailments and grievances, complaining that the world will not devote itself to making you happy. World doesn't owe you things,
that's
but
right.
it'll give you things once you know what you want.
That's right.
So finding that purpose, I mean, I'm not saying anything new. I'm just repeating what everyone has said. When you grow up, everyone asks you, what do you want to be when you grow up? I mean, it's because it's a very important question. But what
It
is
is
the
an
purpose?
important question.
What's the
Yeah.
purpose that you're going to attach to your life, and how are you going to exercise that purpose? You know.
Yeah. Yeah. So with that, I'd like to bring us through to your Healthy Neighborhood Project and tell us a little bit about that because it's a really important endeavor. I love the whole aspect of this.
Oh, thank you for saying so. Again, it's sort of an evolution. It all comes back down to September 22nd, 2011. I had my carotenoid index, my carotenoid measurement.
Yes.
That sort of changed the course. So some people rightly call me a carotenoid crusader. So in the end of 2021, a neighbor, a very nice neighbor, helped us with our electrical problem, but he wouldn't take any money from us.
Okay.
So I gave him a complimentary carotenoid measurement. And he said, oh, you know, your neighbor is also a nutritionist, and my wife is a nutritionist. And I'm thinking, well, why not scan the neighborhood? And that's where the Healthy Neighborhood Project came, the concept. So, and I had some guidance from some very, very nice people, good people. So we had the first fireside chat we started the 1st of January 2022. So we're now 4 years every Saturday, listening to listening to someone at the fireside chat. We started initially to call them the campfire chat, but one of our board members decided that he doesn't like camping. So he doesn't like the idea of a campfire. So one of our other beautiful people suggested a fireside chat. And of course, you know the history of fireside chat, which I thought was really, really good and really apt.
Yeah.
And you see more and more of these fireside chats now popping up. So the vision of the project is really simply a world that's truly nourished in mind and body and spirit. And the mission is to be a force for good health throughout our neighborhoods by empowering people with awareness, innovative solutions, and then this enriching, uplifting environment that we all thrive in. We're all very, very social people. Most of us are. Maybe the few hermits can get without it. And then the purpose is just to create healthy and connected communities, which is basically what many villages do. Yeah.
Right.
And then the concept sort of inspired by the Tidy Towns competition in Ireland, you know, basically it started in 1958. They had a competition. So over the years, towns got tidier. It's like the German saying, if everyone swept their front door, the neighborhood would be clean, you know. And likewise, if everyone took care of their health, or at least measured and knew what their nutritional health was like, we'd have a healthier neighborhood. And hopefully that would ripple through the neighborhoods around the world.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And I love the fact that what you're doing is you're taking time to educate not only yourself, but all those around you for that wellness too. That's a beautiful contribution because that creates a ripple effect. You know, that information that's heard ripples out to others who are engaged by those individuals. So that's really, really admirable.
Well, I always joke often I joke when I read the mission. You know, our job is to create the awareness because awareness creates choice. And the perfectly valid choices do nothing. You know, and I joke, even God doesn't have time to convince. That's why he gave us free will. I can't convince you. That's not my remit. My obligation to you is discharged once I create sufficient awareness where you actually now manage to care and understand. But then the rest is up to you.
Exactly. You know, people always say you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. Well, yeah, you can make them drink if it's salty enough. So
exactly. Or you just make them thirsty. Or what they say.
Exactly.
You know, my take on that is you can't make a horse drink, but you can wax lyrical about the benefits of proper hydration.
I love it. I love it. Now, I would feel remiss if I let you go and we didn't talk about the actual measurement device because we've kind of glossed over it and went around it, but I love the fact that you shared this device and how it works and how it takes measure. So if you
let me then go back a bit because I love the history. So in 1930, a guy called C.V. Raman got the Nobel Prize for a light measurement technique, and it's called spectroscopy. Basically, You're just using light to measure, okay?
Right.
For a light measurement technique which was then called Raman spectroscopy. And that measurement is an absorption of a wavelength, changing the wavelength and emitting a different wavelength. Do you understand what I mean? So it's not just like a mirror where you're just reflecting the light. It gets absorbed and then the wavelength changes. That's called the Raman shift. So Werner Gellerman at the Moran Institute for Biomedical Optics in the late 90s asked the question, could you use this Raman shift to measure non-invasively the concentrations of these macular pigments? In the late 90s, the leading cause of blindness in America was age-related macular degeneration. And there's a link between, and then Nolan showed that in his PhD, a link between carotenoid levels and healthy tissues and macular degeneration. So Gellerman showed that you could do that. And he published that in Ermakov et al. In 1999. And then he published another paper later where he showed that if you up the power of the laser, you could also measure it in the skin.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're shooting. And then I'm not sure how, but Nu Skin Pharmanex got involved by licensing the commercial rights and then brought to market in 2003 the first unit, because it used to be the size of a lab. So the first unit, which was called the S1 biophotonic scanner. That was a bear of a thing to use, but by 2013 it had morphed into this, which is still for me, this is where the blue light comes out, you just put your hand over it. It's still for me the gold standard, for measuring carotenoid concentration. But it was really designed more for practices, for holistic practices, medical practices. And I always say, so then I've been using it since 2013. I've had the same scanner, and I go and I measure and I support my clients' nutritional wellness. And then more recently, is basically January 9th, we launched this device. If I look at this device here, it's technology heavy and software light. This is exactly the opposite way. This is software heavy and technology light. It still uses, if I turn it on, it still uses light. Right. Yeah. To measure. But it also adds in the machine learning and artificial intelligence from the millions of scans that we've done with the other devices since 2003. That's a database that's proprietary to Pharmanex Nu Skin. Okay. Yeah. Now,
so how is it actually measuring the carotenoids? Okay, so this is the part of me that always wants to dive in just a little bit, but how is it actually taking that measurement? What is the measurement based on? Or what is the laser?
So basically, if you could look at this thing here, okay? Okay. So as I said, it's shooting the electronic structure of carotenoids. They have this series of conjugated single double bonds. That's a representation. In actual fact, what's happening is there's an electron cloud hovering over this structure. Yeah?
Ah, okay.
And that electron cloud will absorb this blue light, excite itself, and then shift it as it's coming back down from its excited state to ground state and emits blue light. Okay. So the number of photons coming back is directly proportional to the number of molecules in your skin. Mm-hmm. So that's how you measure the concentration. That makes sense?
Yes.
That's so basically the more green light it reads coming back, the more of these are in your skin, the more of these are in your diet. And if you're taking supplements that have this kind of protection, it tells you it's getting into your system. So I would say, and I heard this yesterday from a very wonderful salesperson, the most expensive supplement is the one that you don't know works. And so I think we all need to know whether what we're doing is working. I mean, that's basically the devices are great, the carotenoids are awesome, but as a biomarker of your health, they will tell you whether you're doing it right. I mean, I have a mantra: you eat right, you keep fit, you play with your loved ones and friends, you sleep tight, you likely live long and die quick. But how do you know you're doing it right?
How do you know?
And that's where the carotenoids are that integrated health biomarker, because it measures all of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then on that card, I think I saw tomatoes, I saw carrots,
Yeah.
I saw.
So carrots. So the carrots. So the yellow in corn is lutein. The
Okay.
red in tomato is lycopene. Lycopene, when it gets used up, because these all are, if you look at the structure, they're all fat soluble. They're going to accumulate in the membrane of the cell. So once
Okay.
the membrane, once lutein is oxidized in the membrane, it actually sends a signal to the nucleus to make more gap junctions.
Ah,
And the number of gap junctions you have in the cell are also an indicator of how well your cell is, how healthy your cell is.
right.
So there's some people say there's a link between prostate cancer and basically lycopene. But that I'm not a medical guy. I'm just telling you what's in the literature. So they all have their functions. I mean, I think that the eye carotenoids are basically one of my favorite ones because they allow me to see.
And which ones are the eye carotenoids?
They're the lutein,
Lutein?
zeaxanthine, and mesozeaxanthine, and they distribute really in the macula. The lutein is more peripheral in the macula, and then the zeaxanthine and mesozeaxanthine are more in the middle.
Okay.
So if you ever come to our review on the third Tuesday of
Okay.
Nolan's presentation, you'll see sort of the structure of that.
Okay. I'm going to take you up on that one.
Yeah.
Yes, I would love
So,
to. Yes.
but that, I mean, and then what his work then as part of the Irish longitudinal study of aging shows that there's also a relation to the brain function,
Right.
cognitive function, because they also not only, the back of the eye is the seeing part of the brain. The tissue is very much like what you have in your brain. So they not only accumulate in the back of the eye, but they also accumulate in the hippocampus, which is
Right.
responsible for memory, episodic memory, attention, reaction
Yes.
time. So, I mean, it's criminal that people don't know.
About this.
I didn't know, and so now it's my job to be in your face to make sure that you know.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I'm so grateful that you came here to have this dialogue openly with everyone. It's really, really important because to educate ourselves and to understand what it is that might be lacking. And that leads me to, and I know I have to let you go, but that leads me to my last question with you, which
Yeah.
is the lack of carotenoids the most frequently found lacking in nutrition that we typically have, or
You
is
know,
it just something that we
I
need
mean,
to be aware of?
the person that sort of I hold responsible for changing the direction of my health and my aging trajectory was for many years the VP of R&D at Pharmanex. Okay.
Okay.
And he has a wonderful presentation he did for us, and I can send you the link. But basically, we are the lesson from Ayurveda is everything is connected. Okay,
Right.
it's not
Right. I've
just
seen
the one.
Deepak
It's not
Chopra's
the one
presentation.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
the knee bone is connected to the thigh bone, etc., etc.
Right.
So
Right.
the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So the very first thing that I would, and that's also where the conversation starts with the carotenoids. And I could make an argument that if you're not scoring in the blue or the green, you are micronutrient deficient, not you're micronutrient marginally deficient. So there's a 2006 paper by Bruce Ames that I heard about from Mark. And the title goes this: low micronutrient intake may accelerate the degenerative diseases of aging by allocation of scarce micronutrients by triage. Translated means if there's not enough to go around, your body is going to prioritize.
That's right.
Yeah?
And
it's going to prioritize that biology that keeps the lights on right now so you can walk across the road, you can still function and your heart busts. It doesn't care about tomorrow or the next day or 20, 30 years down the road.
That's right.
Now, we know also from N. Haynes, the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, which is run every 10 years or more, that only 1 out of 10 of us is eating right.
Okay.
So what about the other 9? The other 9 are most likely marginally micronutrient deficient. So wouldn't you think the best thing to do is at least start working on that nutritional foundation?
Yeah. Yeah. But you know, there to people's credit, there is a lot of confusion on what is eating right. Okay? When we look over the years of how many times the nutrient, what's the word I want to use? That the nutrient list that comes out that says, oh, you have to have X amount of this, X amount of that, and X amount of that, and that's a balanced meal.
But Enolia, we cannot, and we do not have the time to figure it out for ourselves. There's an old joke, learn from the experts. Right. You never have enough time to figure it out on your own. So that network that we build of trusted people who know stuff that I don't know, that's the object. I mean, that's what hopefully we've gathered at the Healthy Neighborhoods Project. But if you look nowhere else, look at the Mediterranean diet. And then look at the incidence of the diseases that are affecting us here in America. Look at the incidence of those diseases in the blue zones, or in Icaria, or in Sardinia. And then tell me it's not food related. It's all genetic. No, it ain't all genetic. Yes, there is a genetic component. Yeah. But what you trigger, everything we do triggers gene expression. You just have to figure out that you're triggering the healthy gene expression and you're supporting, you nourish and protect the tissues of life. And then the whole technology of gene expression can allow you to make life like you did when you were young.
Right.
Yeah. So, and that I think is exciting and wow. But because it's new, it's a new idea. We are human. The Peter Medawar once had a wonderful comment. He said, the mind does with a new idea what the body does to a strange protein. It rejects it. That's human nature. There's nothing bad about it. It's just reality. You come at me with something new, or Schopenhauer's 3 stages of truth. The first stage is total disbelief. The second stage is violent ridicule. And the third stage, that was obvious all the time. So we have to go through the 3 steps. And that's where the education comes from a trusted individual.
Yeah. And it's funny because I like to educate the people with just like, we don't take pause to look at our bodies. And when I say look at our bodies cycles. Look at the cycle of the respiration. Look at the cycle of the digestion. Are your cycles in sync with one another? And the whole thing too is that the body will always repair itself if you feed it the right things.
Yeah,
It really,
yeah.
really does. And so, we as human beings, we're so dismissive many, many times in the respect that, I'll hear many people go, "Oh, I'm too old for this. I just can't give that up." Well, then what you're basically saying is, I will stay out of balance and I will continue to feed my body out of balance because I don't have the discipline to basically say no to
Well,
my.
I mean, that's one way of looking at it, Enolia. There's a wonderful, and I posted it today. Hopefully I didn't, anyway, it's a cartoon, okay? And
Okay.
hopefully the copyright is there on the cartoon. So the cartoon looks like this. In its armchair, a mother is knitting, and at her feet on the floor is this child. And I may have mentioned this to you before. This child is transfixed by a spiraling black hole on the wall. And the mother says, "Oh, honey, it's just the abyss. Try not to look into it." That's what we, that's what we do. There
Yeah,
are things that are so big we try not to look into them.
look at
So
it. But you know
I
what?
mean, it's yeah, it's all naturally human, you know.
It is. It's human. But I think I want to leave the listeners with this. Anything that has been, how do I want to say this? All miracles are the ones that we defy the negativity of it. Oh, you'll always be like this. And he's like, "Oh
Yeah.
no, I will." Somebody telling you you'll never walk again. "Oh, yes, I will." "Oh no, you won't." "Oh, yes, I will. I'll walk and then some." It's rising to the occasion of saying, "This is what I need, this is what I need to do, and I'm going to do it. And
Yeah.
I'm going to, embrace it and bring all that I need when I know I need it."
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's clearly, I think it's clear that people that have a positive attitude or have hope, I mean, hope in itself is medicine.
It
Yeah,
really is.
and I love Mark Bartlett's comment. It's truly amazing what the human body, including its immune system, can do when provided of all the nutritional building blocks that it needs. So the question then again becomes, are you providing?
Exactly.
Just because you feel fine, yeah, it doesn't mean you are nutritionally providing everything
Everything.
your biochemistry needs.
Right.
So I
Right.
mean, I would say find out, and then you have the the wonderful thing about it is that you are now in control.
Yes.
Yeah, because you don't have to go to a doctor. Yeah, your lifestyle habits are under your control.
Yeah, you're right. And not only are you right in that positive attitude and that defying, and just basically saying, "I'm not going to give in to that spiraling down attitude of, "Oh, this is what happened, this is it, and I can't do anything about it." I've actually experienced that. You have to rise to the occasion, and just make the changes in the habits that you need to, and treat your body well, and it will take
Yeah,
care of it.
I'm getting to be an old guy, so the runway is getting much shorter. So I can understand at some stage where we have had enough and we just let it go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I tell you, I'm not there yet.
No, you're way too young, Enolia.
Oh, you say that, but I have my age too, so I
But
love
this
it.
was wonderful. Thank you so much for letting
Thank
me
you.
pontificate.
And if people wanted to find out more, or if they wanted to reach out to you, is there something that you want
I
to
mean,
promote?
the easiest thing is just go to thehealthyneighborhoodsproject.com. Thehealthyneighborhoodsproject.com. They'll find me on Facebook and LinkedIn as well. But unless I know them, I will not accept their requests.
So let's say this while we're here with our listeners, that if it's something that really is expressly needed, they should go through me and I will introduce them to you. And that
I think that would be great because, you know, some I've become an accidental salesperson when I lost my job 17 years ago, and it's amazing how many how many people sort of default to, let's put this thing on the wall of Facebook and see how much likes we get.
Oh no,
Yeah.
that's not me. I'm
So
really
and
informing.
I love the way you do it, because you can build a wonderful business through just pure outreach and referral, because then you know where people are coming from.
Coming from, and that
Yeah,
there's
and there's a wonderful wonderful, what was it? It was a death is announced, and Agatha Christie with Miss Marple, and Miss Marple made the point that in the olden days, when people moved from village to village, they had letters of introduction.
yes, they
Yes,
did
so people
in the previous
knew who they
employer.
were. They had their references. Now, now that, I mean, for many decades, that's gone by the wayside. So,
Yeah,
but obviously, that probably would be the best thing to do. And you're
not
always
a problem.
welcome to come join the fireside chat. I mean, I look forward to having you present, I think this weekend, or is it?
Yes, I will be.
Yeah. So that would be. I'm looking forward to that, Dr. Enolia.
Yes.
So
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for taking the time, sharing your wisdom. And this has been another episode of The Infinite Way. So, those of you who are listening, there's somebody out here who needs to hear this. And if they do, please do share so that they can be educated. And that's what we do. We amplify wisdom. So, take care for now, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.
bye bye.